Hello and welcome to Nithrania YouTube channel. You're watching another episode of the Game in a Nutshell series designed for explaining the board game rules. My name is Branislav Berec, and in this video we're going to learn how to play the expansion for the Karak 2. The expansion is called Karak Imperium, published by Albi, who have also sponsored the video. And without any further ado, let's get started. In order to set the game up, take the new landscape tiles and shuffle them into the stack of the other landscape tiles based on their tier. Take the new 4 monster tokens and shuffle them into the bag of monsters. This is the new token, it's called Emperor's Crown. Again, make sure it's somewhere within the reach of all players near the game area. And the expansion also comes with 5 new heroes. You can add these to the heroes from the core game. Now, in terms of the actual gameplay, let's talk about those landscape tiles first. Whenever you draw the landscape tile with the monster token printed on that tile, there are 2 tiles like that, the Goblin Cave and this Stone Eater Mines. So whenever you draw these tiles, don't draw additional monster tokens from the monster bag. When you enter this landscape tile, you have to fight the monsters printed on that tile, so either these goblins or these stone eaters. The standard usual battle rules apply. That means after the battle with these monsters, your turn automatically ends. And now, as long as any player is standing on those tiles, other players can move onto the tile without fighting any monsters. However, as long as there is no hero on such tile, if you move onto that tile, again, you have to fight those monsters again. They have emerged from the hideouts and began to reoccupy the tile again. After you defeat the goblins, you gain 1 wood and 1 food. After defeating stone eaters, you gain 1 stone. Players may never gather resources on these tiles, and players may never build cities on these tiles. Then, when you draw the Rift tile, the Dark General's army starts to claw its way to the surface to destroy humanity, and so all players must combine their forces to repel the attack and to close that rift. That means that all players must immediately move on to the Rift tile, and they all must fight using their hero die and potentially any other unit dice. Now, the game assumes that they win, they close the Rift, and now the player with the highest attack power gains this Emperor token. During this fight, again, the standard battle rules apply, so your units may die, your hero can get wounded. The only difference is that the Plague and Misery rules don't apply. These are not triggered during this fight. If players are tied for the highest power, then the tied players roll again, but this time they only roll their hero die and add the result of the previous army roll to it. If still tied, continue rolling these hero dice until the winner is decided. The winner then becomes the new Emperor. Now, the Emperor takes this Emperor Crown token together with the Emperor's Guard die and takes 1 resource token of each type as the bonus. These are taken from the general supply. From this point on, the Emperor has some privileges. Other players become the Emperor's vassals, and it has a slight impact on building and recruiting actions. In addition, the player who holds the Emperor's token at the end of the game receives 2 additional victory points. The Emperor becomes responsible for the prosperity of the entire empire, so whenever the Emperor builds a building in their city, they also build the same building in another player's city for free. So, for example, let's say both players have already built their cities, and if Emperor builds, let's say, this military camp, then the same building is built for free in the city of another player. It must be a player who already built a city and who doesn't have the military camp built yet. The Emperor follows the same rules for building, which means they must pay the resources When choosing the player, if there is such player who is eligible to get this building for free, you must choose that player. If there are more of them, you can choose whichever you want. On the other hand, if any of the other players, other than the Emperor, builds any building in their city, let's say this player builds the portal, paying the corresponding resources. In addition to these resources, they must pay one additional resource of any type to the Emperor as the tax. You only pay one resource even if you build multiple buildings during the same action. If you don't have that additional resource to pay as a tax, you may not take the build action. This additional resource as the tax also applies in a situation when the player doesn't have the city built yet. They built the city for 2 wood tokens. Another token, another resource must be paid to the Emperor as the tax. Similar principles apply during the recruiting action as well. Whenever the Emperor performs the recruit action, let's say in this example the Emperor wants to recruit knights, the Emperor follows the standard rules for recruiting, and in addition, another player of the Emperor's choosing gains 1 die of the same type for free in case there is a player eligible to receive such die. For example, if their glory level allows them to receive a die, if they already have a city building of that type, and so on. If there is at least one such player, the Emperor must choose that player. If there are more such players, the Emperor may choose any of those players. And again, similar to the building action, if the vessel player performs the recruiting action, for example, if they wanted to recruit archers, they must pay 1 resource to the Emperor as the tax. There is another limitation to this recruit action. For example, let's say there are only 2 last remaining dice representing knights in the common supply. The Emperor is not allowed to recruit all these dice because there would be no die left for the vessel as a free gift. So in this case, the Emperor can only recruit 1 die and the other one must be given to the other player, to the vessel, as a gift. Talking about dice, this Emperor's Guard die doesn't count towards the limit of players' dice determined by their glory level, and it contains 1 new icon. It's this shield. Whenever you roll the shield on the Emperor's Guard die, you can ignore 1 skull rolled on another die, either on your unit die or on your hero die. Then later in the game, when you flip another rift tile, repeat the process. All the heroes are immediately moved to that tile. All players fight and determine the new Emperor. However, fighting on the rift tile is not the only way how to gain the Emperor crown. Any player can challenge the existing Emperor in a player-to-player fight. In order to do that, they must be on the same space, on the same landscape tile, and instead of fighting with the monsters, players fight against each other. Again, the standard battle rules apply. The attacker performs the fight first, then the defender, and then the player with a higher attack power wins the fight. In case of the tie, the attacker wins. During this player versus player fight, both the plague and misery effects apply. If the attacker wins, the attacker gains the Emperor Crowns token, the Emperor Guards die, all the benefits, and since this was a battle, the active player's turn is over. When you beat these goats in a battle, you gain this spell token. This is called Blessing. Similar to other spells, after you use that token, you must discard it, and you can use it anytime on your turn, and as a result gain 1 unit die of any type. Or you can use that token immediately after the battle. In that case, not only you gain 1 additional die of any type after the battle, but you also negate all the skull icons you have rolled during that battle. So this way you can prevent the death of your units or wounds to your hero. However, if you roll this double skull icon, The Blessing token prevents the wounds, so you don't lose any life tokens. However, you still must apply the Plague and Misery effects. Then after you beat the Lord of the Time in the battle, you gain the Crystal of the Lord of Time. With that crystal, you also gain the die of this Lord of Time. Similar to the Emperor's Guard die, these dice don't count towards the limit of your unit dice based on your glory level. And this die contains two new icons. This is the first one. When you roll that symbol during the battle, you can take any of your rolled unit dice or hero die and re-roll them again. So thematically, you rewind the time and you can roll your dice again. However, if you roll the X icon, you must surrender that die and also the token to another player of your choosing. As I said, the game comes with 5 new heroes, and now I'm going to explain the special abilities of these heroes. This is Argentus, the wizard. His specialty are fireballs. If he uses the fireball in the battle, he doesn't have to discard the token. Or he may discard that token, but instead of adding 1 to the strength, he would add 2. However, he can only use 1 spell this way during the turn. With his second ability, he can frighten the monsters up to the level 3, which means he can take any monster token anywhere on the map and move it to any other place, any other landscape tile where a city could be built. So you may not place it on a city or on the Karak castle and so on. This can also be used once per turn. It can only be used outside of battle and it's not considered an action. The first special ability of this Aedorin, the Thief, is Sneaking. Sneaking allows this hero to pass through the landscape tiles without fighting the enemy monsters. When you discover the new tile, you still have to add the monster tokens, but again, you may decide not to fight that monster and continue with your turn. However, if you decide to fight the monsters, your turn ends. Then with the second special ability of this hero, you can recruit 1 knight on any landscape tile with the forest. You don't have to have a city built, you don't have to have the buildings built as well. It's a special ability, however, you can only do that once per turn. Note that this is considered a recruiting action because it is a standard action. You have to use an action to do it. Then Velduk the Barbarian again has 2 special abilities. The first one is called the Hard Skin. With this ability, after the battle, when you roll skull icons on your unit dice, you can sacrifice one of your life tokens to save one of your unit dice. So instead of discarding that die, you lose a life. You can do this as many times as you want or as you have life tokens available, saving your unit dice. The second ability is called Berserk. When you rolled the double skull icon on your hero die, you add 2 additional strength to your attack power. Then the next hero is Skirima, the Beast Huntress. With this ability, whenever she battles a monster which was already on the map, she adds +1 strength to the battle. With the second ability called Dream Helper, she can move from her current location to any other location on the map if that location contains a wounded hero. As part of that move, she simultaneously heals 1 life for herself and also for that wounded hero. Afterwards, she may perform any action on that landscape tile. Then the next hero is Saigo the Samurai. He is a skilled archer and a great teacher. When he builds the city by paying the standard costs, he automatically builds the shooting range for free. Then with his second ability, he may reroll any number of archer dice during the battle, but you can only do that once and you have to apply the result of that second roll. And finally, Minimus the Pilgrim. This is a special character, this is a promo character. He cannot build a city, he's a pilgrim, he can only build these shrines. And he can only build them on landscape tiles which provide the corresponding resource. So for example here we have woods, which means you can build these shrines on those landscape tiles. On landscape tiles, which provide several types of resources, you can build the shrines of either of those corresponding resources. Only one shrine can be built on each tile, and you can also build the shrine on the tile where another player has a hero. Building a shrine is considered an action, and when your hero is located on the landscape tile with a shrine, you can perform the recruit action of that corresponding unit. So here, by paying wood, you can recruit archers into your army. In addition, for Pilgrim, these shrines are all considered to be adjacent to each other. So when you move, you can move from one shrine to any other shrine, and that's considered as one movement. Then after Pilgrim has built all of his 6 shrines, this undermines the faith of Praetorians in the Dark General, and therefore when Pilgrim fights the Dark General, and this only applies to Pilgrim, the Praetorians don't protect the General, which means for Pilgrim the strength of the Dark General is only 10. By the same token, if Pilgrim doesn't beat the Dark General, he also doesn't remove any of those Praetorian tokens. So that's how you play Karak Imperium, the expansion for Karak 2. If you have any questions or comments, I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. You've been watching Game in a Nutshell. My name is Branislav Beret, and hope to see you next time. I would like to thank everyone who has ever supported the channel, and especially the current supporters listed on this page. If you too would like to support the channel in creation of videos like this and other video tutorials and other content on this channel, please visit the patreon.com/nithrania.